That's so brilliant! This video is sponsored by Case Filters. Is it easily possible to photograph a scene which got photographed already millions of times, to photograph it in a way that it stands out from the rest, so that we get a killer shot at a well-known Instagram spot, for instance? I would say let's go to a place like that, and to make it even more difficult, it is one of these places where you are totally limited with your possibilities. Let's go there, let's take a photo, and after that we will meet here again to analyze the image, why it got better, also why it didn't. And I will also show you some other photos in this video which I got already to a masterpiece, on a place like that. I will make no secrets, I will even reveal that one thing you need to make photos outstanding. So let's go out.
Hi my friends, a very good morning. Today I'm going to photograph at a spot which got photographed already millions of times, and the question is it any way possible to get out a really strong photograph that stands out from the rest, or do we just get one of millions of photographs? And I would say that's just one way to find out. Now I'm already here at the spot, and it's really beautiful. We have this kind of pier here what goes out to the lake. We have this fantastic mountain range back in the distance. What I really like at the moment is that we have a gap behind there, and the sun will come up more in that direction, so it would be better to have a gap there. And when we look in that direction, we also have a gap there. And I had a look at the weather maps. That's a really important thing. There is strong wind that comes from that direction towards there, so there is a chance. I'm just not sure if it will be enough, because the sun will go up there. It could be that it's that it's not really ideal. We will have a look then. The question is, what can we do here? How can we get a really strong photo here? And the first thing I always do is I think from the compositional side, what can I do with my composition? Which possibilities do I have? And I mean, basically there you can do everything. There are so many possibilities for compositions. I like this pier here, I have to say, and I want to do something with this pier. And I mean, you could photograph it in a way that you get a kind of diagonal here into your photograph or so. And this just works when you have anything really spectacular at the vanishing point. And at the moment that's not all too bad, I have to say, but it's too dark here in the foreground. I don't want to take a photograph right now. I want to take a photograph a little bit later, and we have a little bit better light here, I have to say. And so I think I will really come here and photograph straight over the pier. But you have the problem, we have this castle here at the right hand side, and quite interesting is usually it's a hotel. Usually we would have bright light there because everyone turns on the light. And I can see it's maybe more, at the moment construction workers, so we could have luck and we don't get distracted light here from the right hand side. I didn't calculate with that, so that would really be fantastic. If not, we would have the chance to get the sun at the left hand side balancing the scene. Again, we would need the gap here at the left hand side. I'm not sure about that. I would say I will work here on a more detailed composition here right now. I think we have around about half an hour or so. Fingers crossed that we will get out a fantastic photograph. It's so fantastic. I really like this spot. This view is just amazing. And the obvious thing had been to place my camera more, not on the pier, but more on the land back there, because in the pier we always have the disadvantage of having a little bit of vibrations and it could lead into a blurry photograph. But what I did is I had a look at the pier, how it interacts with the water, with the reflections of the mountains and so on. And I just found when I'm back more there, I don't have all too much water between the pier and the mountains back there. So it's really bad. That's a compromise to go a little bit into the pier, and yeah, you really have to be totally quiet. It's so difficult also with vlogging here because, you know, I always make B-rolls, put the camera here and there and so on, and I jump around, and this leads to vibrations, and so you really have to be quite careful. Don't move for some minutes or so and then expose, and that makes it quite difficult because yeah, as we already mentioned, we have a strong wind from that direction. As you can see, we saw a gap before there. Now everything resolved there, and it comes towards into our scene. That's not good. So at the moment how it is, it looks absolutely amazing, because at the vanishing point back there, when you look there, we have this amazing orange light back there, and yeah, I would say don't move all too much. I will not make any step here now. I will just expose. I would say, let's make the click. I have to say I'm quite happy with the blue hour shot, to be honest. So that's really fantastic with the orange at the vanishing point. The only problem we have now is when we look back there now, I'm not sure if you can see that because it's quite far away. The gap starts to close. I mean, yeah, it is how it is. I mentioned already the wind which comes from the left-hand side. I'm not sure what will happen. We have around about 20 minutes now to the time where the sun will go up there, and I fear, yeah, that it will get blocked. But it is how it is. I will anyway wait here and we will see what's happening. So this would be the time right now where the sun should come up from the left-hand side, from the left mountain back there. But as you can see, everything blocks back there. So there is really no chance that the sunlight will come through. Doesn't make sense to wait longer. So I would say let's go back to the office. Let's have a look at the photo. Let's analyze it a little bit. And then I will also show you another photograph from another iconic place, which I really got to a masterpiece. Let's go back to the office.
This was such an enjoyable morning out there, but the question is, did I get a masterpiece? I think the photo I got was quite good, but I got one more shot after the one you have seen already, which I think is even the stronger one. I will show it to you later. First of all, let's talk about the possibilities we have on a well-known Instagram spot. And let's start with the obvious thing maybe. You know, most Instagram photos are taken by non-photographers. So the obvious thing would be to nail the composition and to use the light to your advantage, so that you get a clean image. Yeah, I mean, you're a photographer, and in case you are not, we will make you one here on my channel. Well, let's talk about the not so obvious things. Now, to get a strong photo, it doesn't really matter if a spot is well known or not. There's one important thing we need to get a photo from boring to outstanding. And I often say this in my videos, don't capture only. It is all about what the image says in the end. It is all about storytelling. And I made already a comprehensive video about storytelling in landscape photography. I will link a video up here for you. An important thing about storytelling is that the story doesn't get boring. Yeah, I mean, just let's think about a little child that gets told a story, a fairy tale maybe, Snow White for instance, or Little Riding Hood and the Wolf, or anything like that. When a child hears a fairy tale like that, it gets chained to the story when it hears it for the first time in its life. But the more often you hear a story like that, the more boring it gets, right? Because the children know already how it ends, they know about all the details. The only thing you can do as a storyteller is you can try to tell the well-known story in a different way. You could try to change the concept of the story, you can even change its end. I just think it could happen that your children will hate you when you're doing that. In photography, we have definitely a tiny bit more freedom here. But anyway, let's say we want to stick to the proven concept, to the proven base architecture of a composition at a well-known place. For a photograph at the pier, this would mean that we want to include the pier and the mountain range in the distance, which got photographed already millions of times. Now, the concept stays the same. How can we anyway change the story? One possibility would be to include additional side characters, which makes the story more interesting for someone who has heard the story already thousands of times. For a photograph, this would mean that we would need additional elements we could include in our composition. We could place any elements on the pier, for instance, a person, an anchor, a lantern maybe. But you know, in landscape photography, my aim is to photograph more the soul of a nature scene. And this is why I don't want to place any elements into my frame. From the point of view of art, it will definitely not be a problem. It's allowed, of course, but I guess most landscape photographers would not like to do that. Leave me a comment below how you think about placing elements into a scene. Would be interesting. So, how can we get an additional character into our nature scene without placing it? Now, what I do is I make the weather and sometimes even the light to an additional character of my scene. And this can transform a photograph to something absolutely outstanding. For our scene with the beer, this means I studied the weather maps in front and I found out that we would get a warm front moving from west towards east. And the characteristics of a warm front is that higher clouds slide over a kind of bubble so that the lower clouds below inside the bubble break down. And this leads to this behavior that we get a gap in the horizon at the backside of the low level clouds. And in our case, this would be the east, where the sun can shine through in the morning. To be honest, I expected the gap to get it a tiny bit bigger so that we would see the sun appearing at the left-hand side of the photograph. It didn't happen though, but I anyway managed to get the blue hour shot you have seen already. As the sun illuminated the clouds in blue hour, we got amazing conditions at the vanishing point, exactly there where the pier points to. So what I did actually is I supported the existing concept of the pier and the mountains with outstanding conditions, and I often do that on iconic places. Basically, you can use any outstanding conditions, gaps, rainbows, rain, red sky, whatever. But you can do even something better. You know, I always try to photograph the soul of a scene, and therefore it is necessary to know a bit more about the place itself. In this image here, for instance, there happened a bad accident hundreds of years ago where lots of people drowned in the lake. I supported the story by this bittersweet mood of powerful red sky in the left area and salvation in the right area. And this is why I think that this image here is better than the one I took with the pier. But it doesn't need to be such a dramatic story like that. We can also just support the characteristics of a scene. And when I was to Alpe de Suisse last year in the Dolomites, I tried to find a better composition than that one who everyone knows from that well-known place that everyone photographed already, also millions of times. A good way here is to use different side characters, as already mentioned. Also changing perspective is a quite good tip here. In the end, I got an image to work I'm more than happy about. I used the same mountain as in the classic composition, but my story was totally different. The story of an upcoming thunderstorm. But I anyway also wanted to get a photograph at the classic spot, because it's a proven base concept. So I studied the weather maps and I found out that there was a chance to get some gaps in the sky for getting the light breaking through. I waited there for hours and ultimately I got a photograph that supports that roughness, these epic nature forces combined with calm, happy Alp meadow. That scene got photographed already millions of times, but I anyway got a shot that was different. And this just because it tells a different story. So it's definitely a good idea to know how to predict weather. But this doesn't work with weather apps, to be honest. I will link you a video up here where I show you how I make my own weather forecast. With common weather apps, it had not been possible to predict such a specific weather scenario. So outstanding conditions can definitely help, but what if we don't get outstanding weather? And before I will tell you that, my friends, if you like this video, I would really be happy if you could give me a thumb up. Thank you therefore. Well, what if we don't get outstanding weather? I mentioned already that I got one more photograph on the pier, and this after the orange gap appeared, when the sky was not spectacular anymore. But I anyway got a shot I'm quite happy about. Let me show you. I like this image, but there's nothing spectacular. Why does it anyway work? Again, we want to tell a different story, and here I reduce my characters to structures, lines and shapes by relinquishing color. It's a black and white shot obviously, and this leads to a more abstract appearance, which is different to reality. So shooting black and white can also be quite a good tip to get a photograph that stands out. And quite interesting is also when you compare these two images I got, they tell a totally different story. Where the first one conveys a more powerful mood, the black and white one conveys more calmness and tranquility. So Little Riding Hood also didn't get eaten by the wolf in this image. But the story is anyway different. I think it got eaten actually. My children are already adults, so yeah, it's long ago that I told these fairy tales. And by the way, storytelling is actually the most important thing when it comes down to fine art photography. So if you want to bring your photography to fine art, what's not as difficult as you might think, watch this video here next, which is all about how to implement a story into your photo. My friends, give me a thumb up if you like this video. Don't forget to tune in next week. There will come a fantastic video as well. I thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.